Dad called and said he and Mom weren't going to my wedding. It was a call I never expected. My dad rang me up, and his voice was somber as he explained that he and Mom had thought long and hard, and they had decided not to attend the wedding. Before I could even process what he was saying, he added that this meant he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle either. I was stunned, and I could barely get the words out when I asked him why. That's when he dropped the bombshell. Vicky, my sister, was moving to a new place soon, a place my parents had helped her find. Since I had decided to exclude her from the wedding, she had planned her housewarming party for the same day, and they had chosen to attend that instead of my wedding. The shock and disbelief hit me like a tidal wave. The realization that my own sister's housewarming party was more important to my parents than my wedding was a bitter pill to swallow. It brought back all the feelings of hurt and betrayal I had carried for years. I told Dad that I understood and hung up the phone, trying to keep my voice steady. But inside, the pain of rejection was like a knife to the heart, cutting deeper than I could ever express. When I told Rob, my fiancé, he was furious at how insensitive my parents were being, especially after they had insisted on being invited in the first place. Rob was the one who suggested I ask my grandfather to walk me down the aisle. He and my grandmother had always been more present in my life than my parents. The idea resonated with me, so I called my grandparents. My voice trembled, and tears welled up in my eyes as I asked them if they would be willing to walk me down the aisle. "You and Grandpa have always been there for me," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "You've been more than just grandparents. You've been like parents to me. I can't imagine anyone else walking me down the aisle." There was no one else I would rather have by my side on my wedding day than my grandparents. The moment I asked them to walk me down the aisle, they didn't even hesitate. They said yes immediately, telling me how honored they would be to be a part of this special moment. Unlike my parents, they assured me they would never disappoint me. Their words brought a sense of reassurance, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a profound sense of peace and contentment wash over me. With my grandparents by my side, I knew I had a family that loved me unconditionally and accepted me for who I was, flaws and all. I also spoke to my in-laws about the situation. Rob's parents were incredibly supportive, assuring me that they didn't care if my parents attended or not. They were simply delighted to witness and support our union, and their words were a comfort to me. My wedding is just 2 days away, and this morning, I woke up to several missed calls from my dad. Worried it might be an emergency, I called him back immediately. When he answered, the first thing he asked was whether it was true that my grandparents were going to walk me down the aisle. I told him yes, it was true, and that's when he exploded. He started yelling about how disrespectful it was for me to ask my grandparents to take his place. I calmly reminded him that he was the one who had chosen not to come to my wedding, so I didn't understand why he was so upset. But he wouldn't listen. He went on, saying that he and Mom had only declined the invitation to teach me a lesson, to make me see the error of my ways. Then he started to guilt trip me, saying how he and Mom were the ones who raised me, paid for my food and education, and that my grandparents had no right to replace him. I tried to reason with him, explaining that my grandparents had been there for me in ways he and Mom never were, but he refused to hear it. He also accused me of alienating everyone around me, insisting that all of this was my fault. Since that conversation, the weight of his words has been heavy on my mind. I've been wondering if I really did something wrong by asking my grandparents to walk me down the aisle. The doubt has been gnawing at me, making me question my decisions. Update 1. Wow, I didn't expect so many people to comment on my post. I've seen a lot of advice and suggestions on how I should handle this situation, and it's clear that cutting off my parents permanently might be the best course of action. Their constant back and forth is exhausting, and it's starting to take a toll on my mental health. I can't keep them in my life when they've repeatedly shown me that Vicky will always be their first priority. It's not a new revelation. I've known for a long time that my parents are selfish. But how do you just stop loving your parents? It's so easy to say, but in reality, it's incredibly difficult to do. However, for the sake of my mental peace, I have no choice. I need to do this, so I can truly enjoy my wedding tomorrow. Update 2. Sorry for the lack of updates this past month, but I've been quite busy since the wedding. First of all, yes, the wedding went beautifully. With my grandparents by my side as I walked down the aisle, I felt a deep sense of joy, even without my parents there. As I exchanged vows with Rob, committing to spend the rest of our lives together, I knew I had made the right choices. My girlfriends and I danced the night away, and it made me realize just how important it is to stay connected with your childhood friends. Sometimes they become your chosen family, and that night, they reminded me of how blessed I am to have people in my life who genuinely care about me. I did feel a twinge of sadness as I realized my parents weren't there to share this special moment with me, especially when I saw Rob's parents and cousins giving heartfelt speeches to him. But even in that moment, I took solace in knowing that I had made the right decision by prioritizing my own well-being and happiness. Some of my girlfriends also gave speeches, sharing memories of our adventures and the bond that had carried us through both good times and bad. Their words reminded me of the strength of our friendship and how much we've supported each other over the years. In the days following the wedding, Rob and I went on our honeymoon, which his parents generously paid for as a wedding gift. It was pure bliss. I spent my days lazing around and simply enjoying the time with my new husband. Every time I look at Rob, I feel this overwhelming giddiness, realizing that we're finally married. As I mentioned before, I decided to cut off my parents for good. I blocked them on every platform. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Now, I can focus on the future with Rob and the people who truly love and support me.